I was like, why isn't anybody doing this? And then I started designing for women's bodies. I was like, oh, there's like a lot of variables. Like when you think torso length, shoulder width, boob size, where are the boobs? Like, are they up high? Are they down low? And like, how big is your waist? How big are your hips? Like, there's so many different variables. So that was and still is an interesting design challenge.
Welcome to Backpacker Radio, presented by The Trek, brought to you by Topo Athletic. I am your co-host, Zach Badger Davis. Sitting to my right is...
Hi, I'm Juliana Chaunce, a.k.a. Chaunce.
Few reminders. First is, you probably already got this news if you're subscribed to the Trek's newsletter, which you should be, link in the show notes. But the Badger sponsorship is live. This one is extra awesome because not only do we have $30,000 worth of prizes from amazing brands such as Gossamer Gear, Farm to Feet, Sawyer, Jetboil, Durson Gear, Jolly Gear, Town Shirt, Feather Friends, and many, many, many more. But all of the money that goes into this giveaway, sweepstakes, I forget the technical legal term, will go directly to rebuilding the Hot Springs area nonprofit. As you guys are well aware, Hot Springs and a few other trail towns were decimated in the wake of Hurricane Helene, and we wanted to shift the beneficiary for the 2025 Badger sponsorship to directly benefit the AT trail towns. Specifically, this year it will be Hot Springs, North Carolina. So yeah, 100% of the money that goes into the 2025 Badger sponsorship will go directly to that very awesome nonprofit. The entry for this, I think, is mid-February. I should know these details by heart by now. But if you're listening to this, definitely don't wait. Go to the link in the show notes. Get your tickets and your fair share at some amazing gear. Next is Austin Podcast Live. We're doing it. The link has been live for a little while, but is now on the Trek's website. Definitely don't wait to get your tickets for this one. I anticipate this one will sell out. The early interest level has been high. We've never done anything in that part of the country.
Yeah, and our super special surprise guest, I'll give a hint, but not anything super revealing. But if you follow Backpacker Radio on social media, we have been posting Suggest a Guest stories and in-feed posts to kind of kick off the year. We have had our Austin guest suggested a number of times.
Yes.
So that doesn't reveal too much to you because you guys don't see the form results the way we do. But just know that it's someone that people are currently requesting, and we've got them. So.
And this is one we've been working on for literally years. Just haven't been able to time it up. But we're making it happen. Austin, April 17th. Yeah, all the other details are available in the show notes. Got a couple more we're going to fire through here. Is if you're taking on a long-distance trek in 2025 this year, and you want to be part of an awesome team, head to the link in the show notes to apply to be a Trek blogger. This year's program is better than ever. We have a mentorship program, which will connect you with former Trek bloggers and get you directly in touch with those who have walked the walk. We're going to be sending mail drops to standout bloggers. We have discount codes with some of our favorite gear brands. And best of all, you get to be part of an awesome backcountry team. So if that sounds like something that would be of interest, please do head to the link in the show notes. And lastly, but not leastly, if you guys want to support this podcast, you can do so via Patreon, patreon.com/backpackerradio. We are making efforts to give you original, awesome content, but one thing we will definitely be doing every single week via Patreon is ad-free episodes. If you find that you don't enjoy the ads, there is a way out of that for as little as $5 per month.
Yeah, that is $1.25 an episode on a month that has 4 Mondays, sometimes less if it's a month with 5 Mondays. But if you break that down to per ad that you're skipping, if you're listening to this and in the beginning of this episode you thought, I would pay a quarter to not have to listen to that.
Sure.
Then that's literally what the maths out to. That is hiker math, and it helps support the podcast and gets you what you want. It's a win for everyone.
Yes. We like to keep the lights on here and be able to give beer to our guests. So trying to find every creative way to make that happen. Okay. That's it for reminders. No more beating around the bush. Let's get right to our interview with Sarah Berkeley. We are joined by today's guest. Let me scroll up. Sarah Mellow Berkeley has hiked the Vermont Long Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, Colorado Trail, and half of the CDT. She is the founder of Symbiosis Gear, where she designs and makes backpacking gear for people with boobs.
I like that you had to do that with the hands.
We have a YouTube audience. Gotta really sell it.
In case you didn't know what those were.
Sarah, thank you so much for joining us here on Backpacker Radio.
Thanks so much for having me.
So tell us about your first camping experience in a canvas pyramid tent and your first pack being canvas from the 1960s.
Yeah.
Jumping straight in.
Going straight to it, yeah.
Yeah, the first time I went camping, my parents borrowed my grandpa's old tent. So it's like a pyramid shape, square on the bottom, big metal pole in the middle. And we went up to Canada, and it was like pouring rain. So my dad put this tarp over the tent, and in the middle of the night, he's like digging a trench around the edge of the tarp because there's so much rain happening. And he told us later he was like freaking out about this metal pole, like, is this like a lightning rod in the middle of the tent? So that was a very soggy introduction to camping.
Well, you're here to tell the story. You survived.
I survived.
Yeah. I'm curious to get the origin story of the trail name because we don't get too many exclamation points in someone's trail name, so there's got to be a lot of emphasis on this one.
Yeah, I thought it was just kind of funny and cheesy to put an exclamation point after the word mellow, because mellow is sort of, calm, mellow, which mostly I am. But, internally, like, sometimes I'm just, like, ready to crush miles, and I remind myself, mellow out.
Be mellow!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I got the trail name sort of in that way from a guy at, I think it was Lake Morena. They were doing trail magic. The guy's name was Steve Clymer. I don't know if you know him. He works for Outdoor Research, but he was doing pack shakedowns beginning of the PCT. I was like, I want to go lighter. And he was like, you're doing great. Just mellow out. And then he's like, hey, that's a good trail name. And so I just kept it from there.
Nice. Love that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you cut your teeth in the world of backpacking on the long trail.
That was my first hike. Yeah.
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 Were you outdoorsy prior to this?
Yes. So when I was 12, we moved to Colorado up to Estes Park. So
From where?
from Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah. And we built a log house there. So it lived in the house before it was done. Like, spent a winter living in basically one room and cooking on a wood stove and stuff. So I think that prepared me for through hiking in a way, because it's like, how many meals can you cook on a wood stove? Like, it's this innovation and kind of minimalism in a way. Also, very few amenities. There was no roof on the house. Like, it was a little rough. So yeah, and we built the house ourselves, like cleared the land with like a buck saw. My dad was afraid of chainsaws, so if you don't know a buck saw, it's that old fashioned one that two people pull. Like
That's what I was picturing.
Yeah, so
It's a bold undertaking to want to build your own log cabin and then not use a
And
chainsaw.
be afraid of chainsaws, yeah.
right? Yeah, my parents are definitely a little out there.
Yeah.
Is this like a legit chainsaw fear, or did he just not like chainsaws?
Oh no, like paranoid.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was he
Yeah.
using, I imagine, other electric tools?
We had a sawzall, and drills. Yeah. So the logs were like 3-sided logs. We had a friend with a rough sawn sawmill, so he cut them so that we could lift them without a crane. And you stack them up and you put insulation between, drill holes in them, and then have like a giant mallet and like pound these like, I don't know, 10, 12-inch spikes in. So.
Huh. And was this just like a summer getaway cabin, or was this is your primary residence?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Would you
One
say
word for it.
is that where you fell in love with kind of more of a primal minimalist style of lifestyle?
Yeah, it's interesting because like that property backed up to the national forest, and so I would sometimes just like walk out of the house to get some peace in the national forest, just like walk up the hill, sit on a rock, and touch the knick and just be there, not able to see any other houses because there's nothing around. Found a lot of peace there, and that was wonderful. But yeah, after college, I moved to New York City. I was like so over my parents' lifestyle. I was like, I want the corporate job, Midtown Manhattan, did all of that. And then after like a year and a few months, I realized like there was no summer break coming. And like I was like, I just moved from one box to another, like the box of my apartment, box of the subway, box of the cubicle, and I had studied art and like was just a really creative person. And I mean, I loved the job actually. It was web design and super nice, super creative. But then I moved to Berlin, Germany, because I'd heard.
I want to know, how did you adapt to the additional stimulation of going from a small cabin to New York City? Like, I couldn't imagine much bigger contrast.
Yeah, totally. Well, there was an intermediate time, right? So I went to college at University of Nebraska in Lincoln, Nebraska, which
I feel like that's closer to a log cabin than New York City.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, intermediate step. I studied abroad in Madrid, Spain for a year.
Okay.
That was my first big city experience.
Yeah.
And I would do things like not understand the distances and try to walk places and show up like an hour or two late instead of taking the subway. Like things that you just, when you've lived in a city, you know when to walk and when to take the subway. So kind of learned to navigate an urban environment there.
Interesting. I'm surprised you didn't get super overwhelmed by New York City, because I grew up right outside of it and was one of the few people, I would say, from my school that didn't end up living in the city, at least for a bit.
Yeah.
Because I would go in for a day, and by the end of the day, I couldn't get out fast enough. I was like, this place is so busy, so overwhelming, so tightly packed. And I lived right near it. So to go from being in a log cabin you built and going down to a stream and not seeing other houses to that, it seems like it would be a hard adjustment.
Yeah, I drank a lot.
Okay.
But I was always looking for nature in the city, like going to Central Park, running along the river, things like that. You can find nature there. But I think I was very career driven and very focused on like, I wanted something different than what I had grown up with.
How did all this lead you to the long trail? Because I feel like the people who start through hiking with the long trail are New Englanders. It's not someone who was born in Michigan, moved to Colorado, and doesn't really have that close tie to Vermont.
Yeah. So my brother's wife is from Vermont. So I was going there. I moved back to Lincoln, Nebraska for a teaching job and was going to Vermont fairly regularly to see my little baby niece and my brother. And I would just go out for day hikes. And then I saw like these white blazes and blue blazes, and I was like, what the heck is that? And then I found out there was the Vermont Long Trail. I was like, you can walk the whole length of the state? Oh my God. And yeah, I was just kind of curious to see if I could do it. But there was definitely like, even just those first day hikes by myself, I was a little scared, and, gained confidence and curiosity about what I could do. The first day I was planning to start the long trail, though, I went to the trailhead. I had left the hotel. I was like, I'm going to drive to the trailhead, check it out, then I'm going to go leave my car. Drove to the trailhead, and I was like, nope. And I went back to the hotel, and I was like, can I stay another night? Because I was just, like, too freaked out about it. So
I want to go back to the cabin. Can we go back to the cabin?
Yeah, sure.
Were there any simple recipes that you got from relying on a wood-burning stove that have carried over to your backpacking career?
I think it's like maybe more mentality than particular recipes of like just kind of making do. And I think it's kind of fun to innovate. Like it's a design challenge, right? Like you've got an iron griddle and you've got a pot and you can't really control the temperature. What can you do? And it's not so different from backpacking meals,
You got any tips?
Don't be a fussy eater.
That's a good one.
Do you thank your parents for thrusting you into that sort of lifestyle? Because obviously with your love of backpacking, it seems like there's a pretty direct connection between that to where you are today.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's mixed, like, is that an ideal environment for a 15-year-old girl? Probably not.
Yeah. Pretty isolating?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to school out there? Are you homeschooled?
Homeschooled.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and building the house was like part of our homeschool project, like doing the drawings and, the whole deal.
And now a direct connection with designing and building your own gear.
I know. I'm chip off the block.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, like, I've done a lot of personal development work to, be grateful for all of those things and also deal with the resentment and, anger and all that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up in like a traditional neighborhood setting, so I lacked that where I saw my friends, a lot of my friends had that and was always envious of it. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. But like, I wasn't nearly as isolated as a log cabin in a really small town. So
what did you grow up in? I thought you grew up in like a suburb of Illinois.
I did, but we were on like 3 or 4 acres. So like you couldn't just like ride your bike on the road. It was like a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit and no shoulder or anything like that. So it was, a really different experience.
Interesting. We got to dive into that on something.
Yeah.
Do a therapy session.
So my one outlet was I was on the swim team, and I also worked at the pool as a lifeguard and a swimming instructor. And I was very serious about swimming. So like I was at the pool at least 20 hours a week. So that was my big social outlet, and also, athletic stuff that I learned what I could do.
Yeah. Was it a pretty easy adaptation for you to get into backpacking from like a psychological perspective? Because it seems like being familiar with a more primitive lifestyle, like that's something that a lot of people can struggle with going into their first thru hike. I feel like maybe that it wasn't as tall of a hurdle for you.
Yeah, I think, definitely like homeschooling, the way we did it, I had a lot of self-discipline. Like I did my work through correspondence, so they would it's pre-internet, so they mail you the textbook, and they mail you another book with like the teacher's lecture. It was like a ton of reading, and then you write your paper and you mail it in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So your parents aren't having to be the teachers.
Right. When I got to high school, they wanted me to have a diploma when I graduated, so thank goodness for that. And yeah, it was pretty structured curriculum. Yeah.
So you're doing this all self-directed. Your parents aren't like cracking the whip, like you have to do this class from this time to that time. Like you're all doing this on your own.
Yeah, and it was just like get it done.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing school through the summer, most of high school, because it was just so much work.
I don't think I would have had that discipline. I think if I was left to my own devices to just do stuff without any sort of like teacher direction or like social pressure, I would have played video games. I would have fucked off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, I love learning, so that's part of it. And, I would get up, go to swim practice at 5 in the morning, and then come back, have breakfast, take a nap, and then work, which honestly, like, isn't so different from my life now. Like, any of us who work from home, like, it's the same deal. You get to set your own hours, just get the work done.
Yeah. And you mentioned before we hit record here that you live in Leadville now. Prior to that, you were in Denver. It's like a busy urban landscape to, a more remote area. Do you find that now that you prefer a more remote setting, or is it your love of backpacking and want to be closer to trails? I guess, what was the motivation to move to Leadville?
Yeah, it was definitely to be closer to trails and the mountains, and that town just has a really good vibe. I was there like a bunch of times over the past few years for my business and for hiking. And then, from Denver, I would go up there for the weekend sometimes, and I got a sense of like a real community there. And yeah, I don't love the like 5-10 lane highway business of Denver. That's pretty stressful for me. So yeah, it's an experiment. We'll see if, how long I stay there, but so far so good. Like, people have been super nice, and it is, I think, good for my nervous system. Like, I'm not worried about, my car getting broken into, or, it's also like a big city can be really anonymous, and there, for better or for worse, you get to know people pretty fast. So yeah, I have been like fantasizing about a trip to New York. I've been missing like that really like urban, environment, and also, was excited to come here this weekend and just kind of get a little city time. So, one isn't better than the other. It's just different, and I'm appreciating my time up there now.
Yeah.
This probably isn't a relevant question for most people listening, so sorry, listeners, for being selfish, but I feel like Leadville has grown a bunch in even just the past 5 years. Have you noticed that being up there, of it being bigger, smaller, growing in any certain type of way? Because I feel like that's somewhere that I keep hearing more and more people are going to.
That's my gut feeling. I have also heard from local people who've lived there for longer that like the downtown especially has developed. I imagine with remote working, like it's allowed more people to live there, but there's still kind of there's a lot of people with seasonal homes there, and there are a lot of people who like work at Copper Mountain who live in Leadville, or they live in Frisco and they come up to Leadville and work. So it's kind of a weird mix of people. But yeah, I think it's growing, and there was an article, I don't know if you saw, in Outside Magazine recently about Leadville being a great mountain town.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, please don't make the prices go up.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
everybody's going to go there.
I feel like there is somewhat of a cap just because it doesn't have a ski resort there.
Exactly.
Like that definitely limits, but I agree with Chaunce as well. 'Cause we used to visit there a lot, probably 8 years ago. We had a friend that lived there, and yeah, it seems like the word's gotten out. People being able to work remotely, and that was one of the more affordable towns relative to what's going on in Summit County. So yeah, it's no longer the secret.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
being featured on Outside Magazine doesn't help that case
Totally.
either.
Yeah, although I think for the local economy, it's probably good.
Yeah.
And they do have a little ski resort called Cooper.
Ski Cooper.
Yeah, Ski Cooper, and they have a Nordic Center there that it's just really sweet. So.
Yeah. I'm also, please tell me this is still in business. It's been a minute since I've had it. Mile High Pies.
Yeah,
Some of the best pizza in the state.
amazing.
Yeah, really good.
Amazing. And yeah, I'm gluten-free and dairy-free, and they make a really good gluten-free, dairy-free pizza. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
I remember a pizza called the Alligator that had shrimp on it.
What?
And I'm not even a big shrimp I never order shrimp as an appetizer or anything like that. And someone recommended it, so I gave it a shot. It was so fucking good. Shrimp on a pizza. Who'd have thought?
Huh. Yeah.
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 Sounds weird.
It does sound weird. It's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Backpacking, Long Trail 2018. So, yeah, I guess walk us through the early stages of getting into long distance backpacking.
Yeah, I don't know why I continued after that hike because it really sucked. I was just listening to your episode with Blaze because we met each other on the PCT and found out we were on the Long Trail at the exact same time, but never met each other. But she talked about it was like rainy, snowy, cold. Like I got up to Camel's Hump and Mount Mansfield, both the only two peaks. It was completely socked in, but I did get some good fall colors. Like that part was amazing. I hiked it with my dog. Her name was Hope, and yeah, it was honestly a real shit show. I had a Gregory Diva 60 backpack. I had my sleeping bag from the 90s from camping with my parents. They decided to splurge on North Face backpacks for us one year. Took up like half my backpack. I think it weighed like over 5 pounds.
North Face backpack or sleeping bag?
Sleeping bag.
Sleeping bag.
Yeah. It was a mommy bag. It was like when mommy bags first started to be a thing.
Yeah. With all the bells and whistles and like 500 fill power down. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was actually synthetic, but
Okay.
yeah, so totally overpacked. And then there was one point where my sleeping pad got a hole in it. Hope, my dog, broke my tent door on the same night. It got really cold and my knees were giving out, and it just seemed like everything fell apart at once. And like I sewed the door closed at night because there were like, what happened was I was all set up in the tent for the night, and then I need to go pee, and Hope used to be like so attached to me. She wouldn't let me go, and I just thought she would stay in the tent. I zipped it, and she like busted through the tent door. So sewed us in for the night, and then my brother was living not too far away, so he came and met me on trail the next day, and I went into town for a week and like replaced my gear and all of that stuff, and then went back out again. But I was really debating, like I was like, maybe this is it. This is like the stupidest thing I've ever done. And, yeah.
What kind of dog? I heard you use Hope in past tense.
Yeah, she died in fall 2023. So yeah, but she was definitely my buddy.
Yeah.
She's a lab pointer mix, and she was 2 at the time, so had like tons of energy for hiking. And I was like worried, like, am I, is this too much for her? And she had her own little backpack and stuff. But we would get into camp at night and she would want to play fetch with people. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, you're
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
You're fine.
I would do that with Harper. I'd say we're doing 15-mile days because I don't want anything more for her. It's for her. And like I would be dragging myself into camp and she'd be running laps.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the mileage is for her, not me. It's her. I could go further. She is a dog. And yeah, she would love every second of it.
How did you navigate the long trail with a dog? Because there's so much like hand over hand rebar climbing. How did you manage that with a dog?
So she was an amazing climber. There was one route up, I think it was up Mansfield. I took a different route because it was like a straight up ladder. But there was this other place I didn't know there was going to be a ladder up a rock wall, and we got there and I was like, oh crap, like what am I going to do? And I kind of waited around hoping somebody would come, but there weren't that many people out there at that time of year. And so I started like brainstorming what I was going to do. And I decided there was like this tiny ledge, maybe like 4-inch ledge at the bottom of the ladder. So I was like, if I can lift her up on that ledge and then I can go partway up the ladder and grab
The handle
on her harness and like pull her up. So that's what we did. And, like I had my hand on her like as I'm climbing up the ladder, hoping she's not going to like jump off and hurt herself and stuff. So yeah, that was the trickiest part.
Yeah, that reminds me. We stayed at a friend's house recently up in Summit County, and we had all of the kids and me and Jen in the same room, and we had the dogs. And there was no place for Sierra to sleep, and she always will end up sleeping on a soft surface. So we didn't want her to sleep in our bed because we're sharing a double bed already. So I picked her up and literally put her on the top bunk. She's a 70-pound dog, which solved one problem. When I had to wake up in the morning and get her down, that was a different situation. But yeah, it just made me think of like, how would I navigate a dog on the long trail? Because I've hiked the long trail too, and that seems like it would be a tricky one with a pup.
Yeah. That was the hardest moment. But I mean, she was an amazing climber, and some of the things like I had to kind of teach her stuff, but once she got it, like all the hikes we did after that, she would always like be ahead of me, and I trained her to like stop and wait for me. She'd stop and look back and be like, what the heck is your problem?
Slowing me down, Mom. Yeah. So yeah, I guess what did make you stick with backpacking?
So on the long trail, I met some like experienced thru-hikers. I met one guy and I was like, how many miles a day are you doing? And he had the like trail runners and stuff, and I still had the hiking boots, and it just kind of blew my mind that somebody could do that many miles. And then I met these other two guys who I think were Triple Crowners, and I asked them like, oh, what was the best hike of the 3 trails? And they both said hands down the PCT, and that was kind of, I think I'd already read Wild, so I sort of knew it existed, but I didn't really know about thru hiking. Like on that hike, I didn't have gut hooks or far out. I met somebody on the trail who told me about it. I was like, oh, there's an app? Okay. And then they told me about backpacker radios. Like my whole drive back west, I'm like listening to you guys, like trying to learn as much as I can. And
wow, those are the early days too.
Yeah.
Because that was actually 2018, early 2019.
oh, I didn't realize that's when you guys started.
We started January 2018. Happy anniversary.
Yeah. You didn't get me anything.
Well, I didn't get anything either. So.
All right, fair. Okay, so you found out about a trail that was better than the long trail, and you decided that you didn't dislike it enough to throw in the towel on the activity?
Yeah, I think it was totally type 2 fun. It's like sucks the whole time, and afterwards you're like, wow, I fucking did that. Like, that was kind of cool. And what else is out there? And can I do it? Like, that's always the thing. Like, I was like, when I did the PCT, I was 41. I was like, oh, people in their 40s are like, what, 2% of the hikers? Like, there's going to be a bunch of kids, and do people really hike 30 miles a day? Like, that sounds crazy. So yeah, it was a question, like, can I actually do it? And financially too, I was like, it seemed like a lot of money. Like, how was I going to afford it? So I kind of waited till the last minute, applied for a permit in the second round, and then I got it, and I was like, yeah, maybe I should just go for it. But planning it like seemed so overwhelming. I really just planned the first month. I was like, let me do the first month, and then maybe I'll just go home after that.
Did the pup, I'm sorry, I blanked on the dog's
Hope.
name. Did Hope go with on the PCT?
No, I decided not to take her because of water shortages, national parks, like all the logistics with dogs. And, you know, they don't ask to be out there. Like, so I didn't think it was the best experience for her.
Yeah.
Plus just all the complications. So she stayed home with her boyfriend and had a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also mentioned frustrations with your gear on the long trail. Were there many gear upgrades from the long trail to the PCT?
I think I swapped everything out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I really started to nerd out about gear. And I had this spreadsheet of like gear and town stops and food. And like, I was like, oh, what did Chaunce take? What did yeah. I was like, what did Dixie take? And like, you know, where do they do their town stops and all this stuff? So, yeah, I bought a backpack, a used backpack, and I bought a used quilt off of eBay. I don't actually recommend the used quilt. Like, I think you can get a lot of great used gear, but quilts, like, they pack down. So that's one I think it's worth spending the money to get a new one.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't know that. I was just like cold most of the PCT.
I'm just in my head like this validates all the I consider unnecessary because it was overkill, but the amount of comparison I did on different pieces of gear and like tracking just the little itty bitty ounces and all that was something I did because it made me feel more comfortable about starting the hike. Less that I needed to do it, but more just diving into the numbers makes you feel more prepared.
And you still brought a hammock.
Yeah, I didn't say it was perfect, but who knew there weren't trees in the desert? Yeah, no, very validating. So I'm just sitting here smiling.
And you and Dixie started the same day, right?
Yeah, same car, same Scout and Frodo car to the terminus.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So how did the experience change for you? I guess both from a gear standpoint. Obviously, you got rid of the 5-pound sleeping bag, which is a nice feeling, but also going to something that's graded for horses versus doing like basically vertical climbing on the long trail.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what a treat. The PCT is like such an amazing trail. Yeah, and I continued to learn a lot on the PCT. Like I told you with the trail name guy, I was like, any opportunity I had to learn from people, I took it. Somewhere toward the beginning, I met a guy named Cruz who made his own backpack. And I was like, what? You can make your own backpack? I got to talk to this guy. And he was like, you know, the tiny, tiny pack, like super ultralight. And we ended up hiking together a lot, and I just asked him like 10 zillion questions. So I learned a lot that way too.
Were you crafty at that point? You mentioned that you were a graphic designer, so obviously creative, but like, were you designing and building anything prior to thru-hiking?
My job before thru-hiking was as an art professor, so I was teaching photography and digital media. And in my undergrad, I had studied sculpture and photography. And a lot of the sculpture I made was like fabric sculpture over structures, kind of stretched around structures. So, and you know, as you might imagine, the log cabin, like I knew how to sew, I knew how to do canning, like all the stuff that you would imagine from a log cabin life. So what was different for me about like designing backpacks is like product design is a little different than graphic design because it's 3-dimensional. But I had like sewing experience and I had sculpture experience. Technical drawing was not in my skill set, still is not in my skill set. 3D modeling I kind of dabbled in, but I'm using a method of just like getting patterns and cutting them out and starting to make things and try it out and, you know, see what works. With the first pack, I don't know if you want to get into the whole pack.
Let's go.
Okay. So with the first pack, I got a pattern from Cruz, who I met on the PCT. And then another friend from the PCT, Sai, he helped me, we kind of like rejiggered the pattern a little bit, hired somebody to make the first prototype, and then cut it apart because it wasn't designed for women. So cut the straps off, and we had a really fun day where we went to like all these different stores looking for raw materials of like where can we find the right kind of foam for the straps, and So yeah, cut the straps off, made new straps, put those on, thought about the sternum strap, and yeah, we have this funny prototype where it's got like paracord all along the inside of the straps. It looks kind of like a stegosaurus back. It's like a bunch of loops, because I knew I wanted the sternum strap to have like a lot of options of where to hook it in. So the two of us did a lot of brainstorming about how to make this fit women's bodies and how to accomplish like inclusivity for a lot of different body types and shapes. Because like before that I was like, why isn't anybody doing this? And then I started designing for women's bodies. I was like, oh, there's like a lot of variables. Like when you think, like for men it's mostly like torso length, that's kind of it. I mean, shoulder width to some extent, but you know, women it's like torso length, shoulder width, boob size. Where are the boobs? Like, are they up high? Are they up low? Are they down low? And like, how big is your waist? How big are your hips? Like, there's so many different variables. So that was, and still is, an interesting design challenge.
Yeah, how do you accommodate that? So like a traditional pack manufacturer, right, will have different hip belt options, different torso lengths, obviously different leaderages. What are the variables that are customizable for your customers?
So this one is a one size fits many.
Okay.
And I did that not because I don't care about people, but because I worked with a factory that had a minimum order quantity of 500, and I didn't know if I had a market for multiple sizes, and basically couldn't afford to do like 500 of multiple sizes.
Yeah.
So that's coming, and I'm especially sensitive to like smaller women, and hearing more and more that like this pack I think fits people from like 5'2" up to 6'1". How many women are like under 5'2" and want to go ultralight or are ultralight?
Yeah, I gave her some shit for this before the show.
Oh, did you?
I was like, I got a bone to pick with you.
Yeah, I mean, I hope the listeners like please email me, message me on Instagram. Like if I know there's a market for it, I will make the stuff.
Yeah.
Like so yeah, that's sort of the limit on that side. But back to your question of like the straps are super curvy. So that's one. The sternum strap hooks in like basically anywhere along the straps, so you can choose where you want to hook it in, where a lot of unisex packs have maybe like a 4 to 6 inch range, and some of them are totally fixed, like you can't move that sternum strap. The other thing we did with it was make the straps narrower and closer together, because women tend to have like narrower shoulders. I find that really helps, because like some of the other packs I used, the straps were like out over my rotator cuffs.
That hurts when they're right there.
Yeah, and you can't really move your arms. Like if you want to use trekking poles, you're like kind of stuck, or you find yourself like hooking your thumbs in the straps while you're walking to push them together. So it's interesting. I mean, I think women are really great at just kind of getting on with things in suboptimal conditions, and I've talked to some women and they're like, oh yeah, I have all those problems with my backpack. I just like never really thought about it. But it's really interesting talking to women about other issues I didn't know about, especially the smaller women. Like one woman told me her hip belt was giving her like bruising her ribs.
I've seen that a lot.
Have you?
Not on me, but I've hiked with people where they've gotten a lot of hip bruising from the hip belt.
Yeah, I think it wasn't even just her hips. It was like because her torso was so short, the hip belt was like pressing the ribs.
Oh, interesting. See, mine, I feel like mine sits between both bones for the most part, so it doesn't rub because it's in that like fatty, fleshy center, not on the bony either side.
I feel like if the hip belt's hitting your ribs, that's a pretty, at least for
There's
my
not
body.
much room between the two. That's the top of my hip bone. That's the bottom of my rib.
Oh, geez.
There's not much. You want to stick your finger in there?
No. You already committed to smelling your poop, which you'll hear later in the show.
Weird that you'd prefer that. Yeah, that's to come.
I think that's less of an HR violation than whatever you just proposed.
There's nothing wrong with that spot. That's on the side.
Yeah.
Safe zone.
Is Java your HR person?
Yeah,
he's HR.
He's head of HR.
He never applied.
He's doing a great job.
I have a question about the S straps, because when I was on the PCT, I tried the ULA circuit, and they had the option for regular strap or S strap. And my brain doesn't fully understand the difference in that I see the S shape and I wonder where it S's. Like, is it S'ing around your boobs so your boobs are in between the S's? Or is it S'ing, like, what does the S strap do?
Mm-hmm. It goes around the boobs.
Okay.
Like, on the outside.
So when you're wearing a pack as someone with boobs, the straps should sit on the outside of the nip, not on the nip.
Exactly. Yeah. Unless it's like a running vest style.
Yeah.
Then it's probably going to go over the top.
Do women have their packs so they go over the nip currently? I don't even know. I would assume they're on the outside already.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't have very large boobs at the moment. But I feel like there have been times in life where they have been bigger, and when you have bigger boobs, I feel like to get it to go on the outside, you'd almost have to push them together, and then they go on the outside. I'm guessing here, because if the strap is just on the outside, like, you're already on the side of your arm.
I feel like we have the shoulder strap to boob expert of
Yeah.
the world here, so I'm sure she can weigh in on the subject.
And this is a great plug for YouTube. I've touched my boobs a lot during this, so if you're into that, YouTube, Backpacker Radio.
Yeah, so I also don't have very big boobs, and I just thought it was like a non-issue until I got a running vest style pack, and I was like, oh my god, this is like the worst, like most uncomfortable thing I've ever worn. In the store it was fine, and then I got on trail, it was like so not fine. And then I thought, gosh, like, what is it like if you have like bigger boobs? Like, what are you gonna do? And I had seen women with like the sternum strap like almost up at their neck. You've seen this too.
I've done
I feel
that.
like I've seen that.
I'll put it like up here.
Yeah, it should be like, I like to think like a finger, 2 fingers below your collarbone. I feel like that's the best place.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Everybody's
What's the
a little
reason
different.
for that? Why would someone with bigger boobs have this sternum strap higher?
Well, I think it's 2 reasons. One, if the straps aren't shaped right for them, they're trying to pull them in because they're sitting too far out.
I tightened the shit out of mine.
Yeah, so that's problem 1. And then, like, how much space do you have between your boobs and your neck? For some people, it's not very much. Like, especially if they're, young
and
fuller
perky.
chested. Yeah, and they got big boobs, basically. Yeah.
Young, perky, big boobed women.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I designed this. First person to try it, of course, is me. And then I had other friends try it who had, bigger boobs. And then I took it to PCT days, just a couple prototypes. And that was the first time I had like much more curvy women try it on. And I was like so nervous. I was like, oh my God, is it going to work? Totally worked. People were really happy with it. So.
We'll get off the boob thing shortly, or maybe not. I don't know. It feels like this is obviously a key selling point of the pack, but is outside boob chafage a common issue for breasted folk?
Yeah, I hear it is. And then like also the other thing that happens sometimes if people have bigger boobs is it's going to push your straps out, right? So then where the end of the cushy part of the strap hooks can like sometimes get people kind of in the armpit.
Yeah.
Cause chafing there.
I was going to ask about the S strap is how do you avoid, like, something that I hate that can happen with straps is if they are out this far, when I walk and my arms move, especially a strap that has like the clip on it for the sternum or the webbing that you can move the clip to different parts. If that's right here and my arm's moving while I'm walking, it's rubbing each time it goes past it. So then I'll tighten the chest strap so that it goes in further so that my arm can do that and it's not rubbing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make the S shape and avoid that?
Yeah, so that's part of what the S does is like it lands closer in on your chest. But the other part is placing them closer together up at the top, like behind your neck, so that when they come down, they're not like landing so far out.
Can you draw the shape of it? Because my brain is thinking firm S, and I'm wondering where the S is.
Well, I can show you on the thing.
Yeah.
We'll have to describe it for the audio folks. But yeah, so you can see it starts curving here, and then it comes in there.
Where's the boob?
Is it where it
Actually
juts out?
down here.
Oh.
Like
Oh.
this on me right here, this hits like at that spot up here.
Got it.
Yeah. So this part is where the boob, do we want to show it to YouTube people?
Yeah.
The boob is like actually down here.
Okay.
And so this is one of the things with when I've had smaller women try this on, this like doesn't tighten quite tight enough for them. Like it's too long generally. You want to try it on?
Yeah, I'll put it on. I'm 5'1", so.
Yeah. So
Just on the wrong side.
I put 5 pounds in there so you could feel a little weight. Yeah, so see when you tighten it down, there should be, like when we do a smaller size, there will be more space between the bottom of the cushy part and the pack body. And then
So
that
the
sternum
standard strap is not going to curve as much on the lower half. Is that kind of the key? Like it was easier for me to visualize before Chaunce put it on, and then once he put it on.
That's what I'm saying. It's hard to picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on you, I would move that sternum strap up because it's squishing your boobs. And sometimes it's a little tricky to get those out, like the first time or two that you move them. It may be easier to do it when you take it off. But yeah, I would put those up. And then, can I stand up or will
Yeah,
that
we
mess
can do whatever. We can do cartwheels if we want.
Do you want help with that?
You can if you want.
I don't know how this
Oh,
is
I
gonna
see. So the
translate
sternum
to
strap
audio, but-
can adjust.
So I just raised it up
vertically.
one. This button is my boob line.
Okay. How does it feel? To me, I should talk into the mic.
Yeah, you can use mine too. You can come over here to this one if you need it.
So yeah, awesome. So I feel like, as I said, this backpack is too big for you. So a smaller version of it. This is gonna end more like here, and then this is gonna just fit better. Like
Okay.
this should be up higher.
Got
on
it.
you.
So the curve part curves here and then it curves out here.
So there's two curves because it's an S, right? So it's like that. Does that make sense? Because
Wow. I'm not someone who should build backpacks.
the other one, like you'll see on ULA, they call it a J strap. So if you
Yeah.
make a picture of J, it's just like straight and then a curve. So an
Yeah.
S curve, it's more like an S.
Huh.
So the curve kind of there's two curves in it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so you make the shoulder straps more narrow at the top, and then obviously wider at the bottom. Those are the shoulder strap differences compared to like the standard pack that somebody's getting from basically any other brand.
Yeah, that's a good description.
Okay.
And I think I mentioned the straps themselves are narrower
Okay.
than
Yeah.
a lot of other packs. Like
And that stemmed from your frustration with using like running vest style packs because were the straps too wide, and that's where you came up with that, or?
no, it was just a regular ultralight pack where the straps are just like wide and straight.
Okay.
And so they were sitting over my rotator cuffs.
Huh.
So yeah, so I kind of, this is the beginning of the PCT. I ditched my trekking poles because I just couldn't move my arms to, to use them. So I was like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Which actually can be dangerous. Like I did some things in snow that like really you should have trekking poles for.
Yeah. Right. Forgot 2019, obviously big snow year.
Yeah.
Are there other brands that are making female specific models? I know that your shoulder strap is unique, but are they at least making efforts? Like, are there different considerations that they're making when they are designing packs for women, or are they just not?
Some of both. So in the like frameless ultralight space, I don't know of anybody else that's doing it. Granite Gear has some really good women specific straps and hip belt. Super comfortable. It's not ultralight, but really great. ULA, as you mentioned, has the S curve. Of course, Osprey. Like, I did a survey before I started the business to find out like what are women using, what do they want, and I think it was at least 60% were using Osprey, and that's what they sell at REI. So you go to REI, you're gonna end up with an Osprey if you ask for a women specific pack. Or you might get a Gregory Diva like I did. So, yeah, definitely.
And where do those packs miss the mark, in addition to the shoulder strap, or is that the main frustration?
Yeah, so some of it is preference and style, right? So, like, after the long trail, I thought I would go with an Osprey. Like, I was stoked. Went to I went to REI in Chicago and tried it on and went up and down the stairs. I was like, fuck no. Like, I feel like I have a trampoline on my back. And I was like, this is not, I mean, I didn't know much about backpacking, didn't know anything about ultralight, but I was like, no way. Like, I don't want a trampoline on my back. I want to feel like I have a responsive piece of gear that's going to move with my body. So for some women, they love that. This year on the CDT, I met an older hiker who was 69, and she was using an Osprey, and she was actually pretty light, like on the edge of ultralight. But her, you know, as we get older, our balance can be an issue, and having that space between the pack and her body was like causing her balance issues.
Yeah.
Plus, the way the weight was sitting on her hips was causing her like some nerve stuff. So, you know, everybody's different. So for some people, like Osprey makes a great pack. If that's what you want, like they do a great job.
Yeah.
But if you want something more minimal, more responsive, more ultralight, you just don't have that many options.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I insist.
No, I insist.
All right. I feel like the suspension frame is especially beneficial for people that run really hot and are sweaty. And I feel like usually, the vast majority of the time, those are guys that are experiencing that. So, yeah, I wonder if the pack suspension design is not better suited for guys. That said, like all the packs that I use don't have that feature, but I do understand the appeal of it. Getting some airflow back there makes sense. But I'm also, from the perspective of someone that can sweat in 30-degree temperatures, like I get hot really easily.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the opposite though too, like when it's cold out and you're like, let's say you, like I hiked with a guy on the CDT who used an Osprey, really liked that, but then, you know, we did a climb and it got cold in Colorado, and then there's like this intense wind and his back is just like freezing.
That's interesting. I hadn't considered that.
I hadn't either. I thought it was
There's
really
times where you
interesting.
want to actually trap the heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the like sweating factor, like people think about that, but like you're gonna get sweaty out there, like kind of no matter what.
Yeah.
So get comfortable with getting sweaty and dirty.
Yeah.
We had talked before the show about how you were doing some SEO for the website, and a lot of the popular searches that people are making are in regards to sizing. What are some common questions that you're noticing people are Googling or looking up in regards to sizing that you could walk us through to kind of give some answers if it is something that a lot of people are researching?
So I just did a quick pass of like SEO kind of long tail searches, and that one about what was it, small women backpack, something like that. Backpacks for small women, I think, was the search term. And it surprised me how high it was ranking. And that's something also, like I try to talk to a lot of women about packs, so this kind of like anecdotal research is also saying that, of like, I can't find anything that works for me. So yeah, sorry, I don't have any more.
Okay, no, that's fine. That can be the answer, is that there's not as many broken down questions as I would have thought.
Yeah, I think, you know, another anecdote, like I went to work at REI before I started the company because I wanted to learn more about the outdoor industry from the inside of the retailer. And yeah, there was one woman who came in and there was literally no pack that worked for her. Like she couldn't get the hip belt tight enough. They were all just like too big. Like, that's not okay, you know? Like it's REI should have something for everybody, like especially if you're just getting started, because like we talk about inclusivity in the outdoor world. Like if there are people coming in who literally cannot find a backpack that fits them at like the biggest retailer, that's kind of problematic.
Yeah, this is a toxic thought, but one of the highlights of when I'm on a long hike is when that strap doesn't get tighter and it's like on the tightest. I'm like, yeah. So not the healthiest, but it's a great feeling.
Yeah, that's surprising to me that there's so much inclusivity, especially with apparel. I feel like apparel has done a good job. I'm saying that from the perspective of somebody where the apparel was probably already designed for me in the first place, but at least the way that it's marketed, it seems like there's been a lot of efforts there. I'm surprised that packs have lagged so much. I mean, obviously a great opportunity for you. So who is if you could describe your ideal customer? So obviously you gave the height range 5'2" to 6'1". Is there like a certain size profile or boob profile, or like someone listening to this, how would they know if Symbiosis Gear, is it that the Aspen is the ideal pack for them?
Yeah, I think you definitely want to be comfortable with the volume. So 38 liters. You can overload it. I mean, Double Dip has talked about doing like whatever she did, 10-day food carry or something crazy with it. I overloaded it with water. It is less comfortable when you overload it. It can carry it, but it's less comfortable. So yeah, I think in terms of body shape and size, like that height range is really it. And men can wear it too. Like, especially like, the skinny ultra runner type of dudes, it works great for them. Somebody who has like a thicker chest, like football player kind of.
I've got a large bust myself.
Yeah,
I was actually wondering.
You should try it on.
I should try
it
it
probably
on.
won't fit you.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting
Sure.
to show people. We should take a picture and post it.
It's interesting that you mentioned the skinny, like ultralight runner type guy, because that's a completely different body shape. Why is it that it would work for them and also somebody with larger cans?
Yeah. So.
There's no reaction.
I'm not laughing at it. I'm laughing at you laughing at yourself at it.
The no reaction part was what I liked the best.
Well, it's not all about boobs, right? Like I mentioned, it's about shoulder width. And so if you don't have super wide shoulders and a super thick chest, then you can use this backpack. Yeah. Actually some at 0 Day Coffee in Leadville, they told me a guy bought it not realizing it was for women, realized later, and he was like, actually I really like the pack. So I'm keeping it. So, and women have been wearing men's gear since the beginning, so men can wear women's gear. Why not?
I wore women's leggings on the PCT, no shame.
Is there any reason why it wouldn't also work for like a man that has maybe more weight that he's carrying, like an overweight plus-sized male that has some boob?
Yeah, actually I've had people reach out to me about this, and I don't have a definite answer on that, but my feeling is probably not. I mean, it depends really on the shoulder width.
Yeah,
right?
Because I would think, why is their boob different?
I
There's
think
dudes with bigger boobs than me.
Yeah, people have emailed me. Like,
Yeah.
this one guy, he's like, my boobs are bigger than yours. I'm like, it's kind of rude to comment on somebody's boobs when you don't know them. But fine. He's like, yeah, my boobs are bigger than yours. Also, I have a trans daughter who's 6'4". Is it going to work for her? And I didn't love the tone of the email, but super appreciate people like bringing these things up, because it's definitely something I have thought about since the beginning. And then he was like, well, you're not inclusive, you're exclusive, which is also really thought-provoking, because I think that word is sort of tricky, because it should be the bigger brands that are excluding people should be more welcoming and be more inclusive. Whereas a small brand like mine, we're trying to fill the gaps that the
Right.
big brands aren't.
It's just a weird thing of semantics that
Yes.
someone wants to score points on.
Yes.
Is there something wrong with just saying, like, is there something wrong with it not being a brand that everyone could fit into? Because if there was a brand that specifically and exclusively was for small, petite-sized women, that ultralight, you'd be excluding a lot of people, but you'd be making the heck out of my day. So
Right.
is it, like, do you need it to include everyone?
No, I don't, and I can't. And so my question like that for like the person who is a 6'4" trans woman, and that's why it comes back, it's not all about the boobs, right? Like, it's how big is your frame? Like, and does she have a hard time finding gear? I'm guessing probably not. Like, because it isn't just about the boobs. Like, you could get a ULA pack, with a large, long torso with S-curve straps, and you'll probably be fine. But, it's a learning curve for me, and interesting to listen to people and hear what they want. And yeah, I did have a guy reach out to me on Instagram and be like, oh, thank you so much for making gear for people with boobs. And I was like, I don't know if it's going to work for you. Like, appreciate the kudos, but, and maybe we will have more sizes at some point. And I think, like, it's interesting, like, when I started, like, Sai was helping me and another PCT friend named Dip, and I was like back and forth before the very first Instagram post. I was like, do we do women with a Y, women with an X? And finally they were like, just make a freaking decision. I did one, and then somebody reached out and was like, that's really offensive to trans people. I was like, I want to let people know that we're not just about like cisgender female women. Like, it's about a body type that isn't being served in the outdoor industry.
Yeah.
So right now the language you'll see on there is femme-bodied hikers. That's what I have on my website. I feel like that gets at it a little bit more. And the boob part, it is a big part of it, but like I said, it's not the whole story. I started using that tagline because a guy was like, why do women need a different kind of backpack? And I was like, well, duh, boobs. And so I put that in the tagline, so that's just not even a question. But as I mentioned, there are other factors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you see as the next way you're going to open up the product offering? You mentioned obviously having something for people shorter than 5'2", Chaunce. What's are you going to go bigger literage? Like, what do you see for the future of this?
Yeah, so I want to hear from people what they want. So I'm putting out a survey. Maybe you guys can link to it in the show notes.
Sure.
When I have it ready, because that's important. It's like I want to serve people and provide what's needed. I am working on a day pack actually. That is it's like a travel bag, has a laptop sleeve, and then you can also take it on day hikes, which is interesting because when I started this, I was like, I just want to do all ultralight gear for women. It turns out that market is pretty small. I mean, maybe the listeners are going to prove us wrong there. But, and a lot of the retail stores don't really carry ultralight gear. They also don't sell a lot. Some of them have taken a chance on it. But they do sell more day packs because there's just more people that use day packs. So this idea is like, also even us, like as thru hikers, most of our life we're not thru hiking, and we use day packs to like commute to work, commute to school, go on a business trip, whatever. So so working on a day pack, and then after that will be a lightweight framed pack, hip belt, all that kind of stuff, still on the lighter side, but with the women specific features.
Yeah. Brings up an interesting thought, because I use my Gossamer Gear day pack as like my suitcase, or not my suitcase, like whatever somebody would use as like a work bag. I don't even know.
Briefcase.
Briefcase, thank you. Am I doing that just because I don't care about the aesthetics of day packs? Would a woman ever use a backpack to like daily commute, aside from just like day hikes? Obviously you want to pack when you're doing a day hike, but like in terms of like you going from your home to here, would you ever use a day pack if it was fit better to you, or is that more of a stylistic choice?
I think it depends on a lot of things. Like, I think for you, it's hard to compare yours to another because you're going from your house to here and you're the boss.
But even like when I'm flying, I use a backpack. Like, again, I also don't care about my appearance whatsoever,
right?
Almost to a fault. But yeah, I'm wondering if women avoid it for the function or for the style, or a combination.
I think it depends, because if you were to have caught me at certain times, I would definitely try to double up the backpack to the day pack to the work pack, because maybe it would have been a time where I was either having a roommate or living in a really small space or living out of my car or doing any of those things where I don't have a lot of stuff. And so if I have a stuff, it needs to be something intentional where it can be used for a bunch of different things. But where I'm at right now, I have a lot of stuff. I've accumulated a lot of stuff. I have a lot of space. And so I'll be more conscious of making sure that what I use for each setting is the best option for that setting, versus trying to find something that I can make work for different things. But I think in the long distance hiking world, you do find a lot of people who maybe do seasonal work and are in seasonal accommodations. And I mean, for me, when I got back from the AT and I had accumulated furniture, that was a big moment of, oh wow, that was the first time in my life I couldn't put everything I had into a car, which for the most part, a long part, was a Toyota Camry. Like, that was the size I would think in my head, was I could get everything into the Toyota Camry and go somewhere. And that would have been a time where I definitely would have wanted a day pack to be a day pack and to be able to bring it to work.
Yeah.
But
you,
now
you just went to like a work conference. Would
Right.
you ever use a backpack to bring your belongings?
no, not at this stage, because I'm in the stage of life where I have stuff and I have space for the stuff. So what I had done is I just went on Amazon and I found one that had the amount of compartments that I wanted so that I could get to everything easily on a plane.
Mhm.
Like there was a very specific want there.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that that's the only way to do it. And I see the different functions just for me currently and the way that I like to see things. I'm very much a person where if I can't see things, they don't exist.
Sure.
So for example, if I have everything lined up in the closet, those clothes exist. If the clothes are in dresser drawers, those clothes do not exist. And so for me to put together an outfit, my struggle in life is I have the cutest stuff, but I can't pair it together because I forget parts exist because they're in drawers. So with a backpack that I'll bring on a plane or anything like that, I want all those different zippers so that I can open it and see everything, and it's not me digging through to find something like you would in a backpack.
Yeah, you want more modular access.
Yeah, and the more I explain it, the more you can probably figure out that it's like a very me-specific thing that leads to my buying traits.
Sure.
I don't think it's specific to you about the different pouches and the different pockets, for sure.
Yeah.
Was it a backpack you ended up buying for your trip?
I now have a purple backpack. It's Amazon. It's got a back zip that zips all the way down to the sides that my laptop and my iPad will go in. It's got a middle pocket that I'll put my like toiletries bag in the bottom, my cord bag, my makeup bag, my jewelry bag, because I'm not putting that in a check bag. And then my big headphones will sit on top of that. And it's got a little pocket for my highlighters. And then it's got a zip in front of that my books go in. And then the front pocket zipper is like no man's land. Things go in there that I never touch. But I can open it and see everything. And they're all separate from each other. I'm a very much food on the plate doesn't touch other food on the plate person.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, like as I've been working on this design, first I was like, I want it to do everything.
Yeah.
And then I started looking at other companies and their product lines. I was like, don't ask too much of this pack. Like there will be another one that's like your weekend trip bag where maybe it's the clamshell and you can like open it up and you can really see everything that way. I don't know yet, but listeners, tell me what you want. But
that pack that I take would never work for me as a day pack, because for me, hiking I don't want any extra weight. And so if it's got all those extra zippers and it's got all those extra pockets, to me that all I see there is weight. And for me, I just want that one big opening. I'll put my stuff I'll only use at night at the bottom, my stuff I might use in the middle of the day, in the middle, my food at the top, and my waters go on the sides. And, just the way that things work in my ultralight backpacking world are so different from my every other day world, where what I would love for one is not what I would love for another.
Yeah. Totally.
So I'm curious, in your backpacking career, PCT, Colorado Trail, half the CDT, where did the light bulb for this go off?
On the PCT.
PCT.
Yeah. So I started the trail with a backpack that, I mentioned the straps were too wide. Was kind of uncomfortable. I flipped because it was a high snow year. It was a sil nylon pack. Just felt super soggy in like a month of rain in Washington and snow. So then I got a different pack, ordered it, I think, to like White Pass or something on the side of the highway, never having had it tried on, and liked some features of it. Probably wasn't exactly the right size, but I was like, I'm not going to go for another town day and like return it and all this stuff. I'm just going to go with it. Then, that one just felt too long. Like I felt like I had a saggy diaper, couldn't really move my hips that well. Straps were great on it. And then went into Portland, got another pack with that like running vest style because I started to move faster. I got lighter. I was like super stoked about this. Got back on trail and I was like, oh my God, like this is so uncomfortable. And that's when I got like really frustrated because then I had to walk like all of Oregon with that pack before I could fix it. So yeah, actually like in Portland, I took 6 days off and I started, I got on the internet. I was just thinking about like women have been carrying heavy loads over long distances like since the beginning of time. So I started my research with like, primitive cultures or undeveloped cultures, like what did people used to do? Like the basket on the head, the wraparound thing for the baby, all these different ways of carrying. And then after the PCT, I wanted my friend Cruz to make me a pack, and he wouldn't. I was like, what the hell? Now that I know, like, making a custom pack is like an incredible amount of work, because you've got to like redo your whole pattern and like do all the measurements. So I get it now. But it sat on the idea for like 2 years. I was kind of hoping somebody else would do it, and then they didn't. So it just, you know, I have a lot of ideas in my life, but the ones that won't let me go like that, then I'm like, okay, I gotta do this, give it a go.
Yeah. What has been the most intimidating part of this to tackle? Because not only you're designing a new pack, but all of the business elements of getting this off the ground. Like, what has been the most challenging aspect of this in your mind?
Maybe I would say self-trust. Like, when I started with this one, I hired some backpack consultants here in Denver, paid them kind of a lot of money, because I just was like, I want some experts, you know, people who've been in the industry to like validate this and so on. And they weren't ultralight people, they weren't thru-hikers, and they were dudes. So there was just like, there was some knowledge they could add, but I learned like, trust myself. Like,
did you get any valuable insight from that consulting?
So they made the tech pack for me, which is, if you don't know, it's like a technical drawing and then a list of all of the components that you send to the factory. And they connected me with a fabric supplier. That's sort of, maybe I won't go into that too much, but yeah, so like trusting myself and then asking questions like, there's like industry jargon and stuff, you know, and like they source this fabric. I didn't really know what it was. Like, I thought it was recycled content because I came to them with X-Pack and they were like, we can source something similar in Asia. I'm like, great. I didn't realize it wasn't recycled content until all the packs were made. I was like so pissed. But I also learned like I need to double check everything. Like, did they hear me? Did they give me what I wanted? Are we like on the same page? And just like ask those questions all the time. Sometimes they're like, with the fabrics, there's all these like letters and numbers of like all these different processes. And I was kind of like, oh, I should know this stuff, you know, didn't want to act like I was super green. And now I'm like, I'm asking every single question. What does that mean? What does this mean? I am new to the industry. Like, I have things to learn, but I also need to protect my investment. Like, if I'm putting down that kind of money, like, I need to know what I'm getting.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of thing has happened a few times where I felt like somebody else knew more than me, and I sort of defaulted to the dude, the expert dude. So, which is an interesting, you know, I mean, I think it's an interesting parallel to what I learned on trail too, about trusting that I could figure shit out when I got there.
Yeah.
You know?
So I see that the Aspen uses the Extrema fabric.
Yes.
How is that different from the X-Pack?
Well, it's not recycled, unfortunately. Okay. It's made from Dyneema fibers, but it's not a Dyneema product. And that was another thing. Like, when I first released the pack, I said it was Dyneema. Dyneema reached out to me and like, that's not our product. And I was like, what? It's not Dyneema?
How did they find you?
I don't know.
It's like Big Dyneema was like, oh, that smells like something that might not be.
A Google alert?
Yeah, they had
maybe they have Google alerts. I don't
Interesting.
know. I mean, yeah, because like we're not that well known yet, but I think it was, I don't know if it was a Gear Junkie article. Some piece of press had come out and they reached out to me and I was like, oh my gosh. So those kind of nuances where like, you know, you're getting that quality, but like I didn't know the whole, what I was able to say about it and stuff like that. So
how is it getting past the hurdle of going from being new to being a product that at least enough people have tried where you have the reviews to back and all that? Because I think part of what's hard about buying gear online from small companies is you don't get to try it on first. You know, you don't get to go to a store and put it on and see how it looks. And especially something like a backpack, when it's, okay, like this measurement from the tip of your, you know, spine to wherever the back one is, like it's possible to get that wrong measuring yourself. And there's other measurements you have to take, and then you have to trust that all your measurements are right. And then you get the pack, where I think if you're ordering online and you are doing something like that and you are going through a cottage company, part of what, for me at least, pushes me from, okay, this could work, to, okay, I'll push buy, is after I've done that initial stuff and I think I've got my measurements right and I think that stuff looks okay, is going to the reviews and A, reading through the reviews, and then B, seeing the photos that people post with their reviews. And when you're establishing yourself, you probably don't have that a ton at first until you grow that audience a bit. How do you bridge that gap from one side to the other, where people are trusting what they're buying because they have that, you know, peer-led or peer-reviewed stuff that they can go and read too?
Yeah, great points. Two things about that. One, I haven't added a review thing to my website. Like,
Oh, no.
I know. So I've been in the process of moving it over to Shopify, and so I've been doing like very minimal edits to the current website, but it's not done yet. So that's lacking on our end. We do have some good reviews from your person at the Trek and Gear Junkie, and I can remember a couple other ones. So there's that. I have a 30-day return policy, so if you don't like it, you can send it back. I mean, please don't hike the Colorado Trail and then return it. But, you know, it gives people some time to test it out. And, yeah, what was the other thing I was going to say? The reviews, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, Ariella was the one that reviewed.
Yeah,
pack.
she's become like a huge fan. Like,
Yeah,
she nominated it for an award and like did the whole Colorado Trail with it. And yeah.
No, she spoke very highly of it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and then you know, Double Dip hiked the trail with it. Swiss Cake hiked CDT with it. Another woman.
Did you hike with Double Dip, Katie?
No. So I met her last year at a Colorado Trail function, and then she was like, I'm gonna hike the CDT. I was like, me too. And so we became friends, and then I was like, oh, hey, I'm gonna go to CDT days in Silver City. Do you want to ride down? And she was like, sure, and I'll help you with your booth. So she helped me with the booth, and then I was like, you want a backpack, like, as a thank you? And she was like, you know, I'm kind of committed to the pack I have. I was like, I'll just give you one. And she was like, yeah, after a day of like selling your pack and talking about like the women's specific features, I realized like my pack was made for dudes. So like, here, just take the pack. If you change your mind, great. If not, like, send it home, whatever. So yeah, she's a one gutsy person. She changed her pack like the day before she started training.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was like I think she started April 23rd and I started May 2nd.
Okay.
So she was ahead of me, which was really helpful because I would be like messaging her like, should I bring an umbrella? She's like, heck yeah, bring an umbrella.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Did you have many other CDT hikers using your pack, considering you were at the kickoff?
So, no. Oh, this was the other thing I was going to say. I do as many vendor booths as I can, and I'm trying to get a lot of retailers to carry it so people can try it on, because the brand is all about fit. And like, as I mentioned before we started recording, like thinking about collaborating with women's hiking groups to, you know, just bring it out so people can try it on, which is different than like a lot of other ultralight brands. Like, we're on Garage Grown Gear. A lot of the brands there exclusively do online sales, but I think because this product is so much about fit that we need to have it in retail stores as much as possible and do all the events and stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, did you have many testers on trail this year?
Yeah. So I had Double Dip, Swiss Cake, another woman named, was it Early Bird? No, Little Bird. She bought one on trail. So that's a thing that's like, I think also different about women's pack sales, that like we sometimes get out there and like packs aren't working for us and we'll switch. Whereas I think mostly men don't do that because they kind of mostly works for them. So those are the three I know of. I don't know about people who bought through the website and through Garage Grown Gear, what they've done with it yet. So that is still to come.
Yeah.
How are you, because you mentioned the sizing and the 500 units of it and everything. are the packs coming fully put together from a manufacturer? Or are you making them yourself? Like, what's the process of getting them made?
Yeah, so this one I worked with a factory in Vietnam, and their minimum order quantity was 500, which at the time I thought, yeah, it's not going to be hard to sell 500 backpacks. I have a lot of them sitting in a warehouse. And yeah, when I started working with Garage Grown Gear, they were like, oh, I don't even think we have 500 backpacks on hand. I was like, shoot. Rookie mistake is ordering too many units. So now that I've learned that, I'm looking at, starting with smaller runs this time. I've got a local guy I'm meeting with tomorrow who, actually he was working at one of the retail stores that started carrying my packs, and he's like, oh, I have this repair business, here's my card. And so he's my repair guy if we need repairs, but he's also helping me, like, I have the pieces cut out and then kind of needed an industrial machine to put it together well. So he has all kinds of fancy sewing machines, so we're going to work on it together.
So does the manufacturer send you the packs in pieces, or do they send you the full pack fully assembled?
Oh, these ones came fully assembled.
Okay, but to do smaller runs, you have to do it in pieces?
To do a smaller run, I have to go with a different manufacturer.
Got it.
Which means either my local guy, or there's also a local women-owned factory that will do a smaller run. Of course, the price per unit is a lot higher.
Yeah.
But you don't have to pay tariffs, which, as we know, may be going up. And you don't have to pay shipping costs, and like they're right here, so we can collaborate. And it also allows more time for iteration, right? So like, let's say we do a super small run of like 20 packs, and then we get all this feedback, and we can iterate better that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in Vietnam, the way it worked was like, I sent them a physical sample, I sent them the tech pack, they reverse engineered what I sent them, they sent me a sample, and then I sent them more tech specs, like, no, actually, the straps need to be curvier. No, the sternum strap needs to be longer. The waist belt needs to be longer. All of these things. And then they would do another version and send it to me, and I'd try it. And we went back and forth, I think, 4 or 5 times that way.
Got it.
You mentioned that the consultants that you met with were minorly helpful. Have you connected much with other pack manufacturers in the ultralight industry? Because I feel like the cottage industry, at least from what I understand, they're very friendly and willing to trade or share trade secrets and like help one another.
Oh my god, amazing.
Yeah. Have you've connected with other brands?
Yeah, like I emailed Dan Durston. He wrote me this like long email back. I was like, what the heck? I never even met this guy. Like, why is he so generous? All Good, who worked at Six Moon Designs, incredible. Like, I met with him, when was it, September? He showed me their facility. I took him out to lunch and just asked him a ton of questions. And then he gave me like a full list of like all his contacts. And Ron, the owner of Six Moon Designs, also was like, here's somebody who can help you here. Here's somebody, like, people are just like so really, really nice, which totally surprised me. Cause like when I was frustrated with the packs on the PCT, I was like kind of angry that like men weren't making better packs for women. And now, like, 1, I understand how complicated it is, and 2, how small some of these companies are. Like Tarp Tent, they still work out of their garage. Like, so like these established brands who've been around for a long time are really small, and everybody's just been so kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you bootstrapped this entire thing? Do you have investors?
Yeah, great question. So I did a little Kickstarter, so that helped. I also borrowed money from my sister and brother-in-law. That's the bulk of the funding. The rest is bootstrapping. Like, money from my checking account goes to Symbiosis Gear most months, and I'm really looking forward to not having that happen anymore. But yeah, I may take investors at some point. I want to have more traction before I do that, because like, if you take investors early, you end up like not owning your business at all.
Yeah.
And so I may do that at some point if we want to scale. I'm not in a hurry. I mean, other than like my savings account isn't super huge, but yeah.
Is this your full-time gig, or are you doing something else on the side?
I have another business which funds this one.
Oh.
So yeah, I have a web design and marketing business. Work with mostly clients in the wellness industry, building websites and helping them with their marketing.
Got it. So what other frustrations with female gear and or apparel do you have? Like, I imagine somebody with your creative brain who's got a number of miles under her hip belt pocket. It's not just packs that probably have rubbed you the wrong way, both figuratively and literally. Are there other product concepts that you are wrestling with, or are you just solely focused on packs at the time?
Yeah, great question. So I have a really big vision for this company. Like, I think women should walk into an outdoor store and see a lot of gear made for us. Like, maybe 30% of the gear in every store should be women specific. There's some stuff that doesn't need to be women specific, right? But like a water bottle, who cares? But I think in terms of backpacking, for me, like maybe sleeping pads. I feel like there's some innovation that could happen there, like just in terms of the shape. So that's one, but it's also more like beyond the backpacking world. Like, I hear from women who are fisher people who go fishing, that like waders just can't get them over their hips, that kind of thing. I feel like there's room in the climbing world. I'm not a climber, but we'll see. Like, I think I mentioned before the show, like I'm working on launching a women-owned marketplace on my website to like bring in other women-owned brands, because there are other women who have that expertise, in climbing and fishing and hunting, whatever, and other products that are like women-owned that maybe anybody can use. So yeah, in terms of backpacking though, I really feel like the backpacks are where it's at. Like, do we need a different kind of tent? I don't think so. But would women rather buy a tent from a woman-owned brand or a male-owned brand? We'll see.
Yeah.
Because I was surprised when I went to PCT Days in 2023 with my prototypes that like none of the equipment companies, other than Tokes that makes like the cooking pots and stuff, all of the companies are owned by men. Like, there are women making apparel, like clothes and food, but like none of the tents, none of the shoes, none of the backpacks were made by women.
Is Tokes a women-owned company?
It is, yeah.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know either.
They're a past sponsor, aren't they? They have the pots.
I know the brand. I don't remember them sponsoring us.
The one with the... Oh, no, maybe not.
You're thinking of
I'm thinking of Vargo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
Brand.
Competitor.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's wrap with this one in that case. This is our peak performance question presented by Topo Athletic. Use code TREKWINTER15 at topoathletic.com. What is your top performance enhancing or backpacking hack? Like something that you've applied in your experience as a backpacker that might not be common knowledge?
That's a tough one. Well, I think fueling is underrated, and especially in backpacking and thru-hiking, we eat a lot of crap. But I'm gluten-free, so that limits like the amount of junk I can eat. But I think, just like basic trail mix is amazing. Like keeping that protein and that fat going, and not just relying on like sugars and carbs is really helpful.
Do you have a maybe atypical or non-traditional ingredient in your trail mix that you like to spice in there? Like Chaunce is known for throwing some gummies in her trail mix, or maybe
gummy worms.
Yeah.
Gummy candies.
Yeah.
Swedish fish.
Generally no, but when I was on the CDT, I sent myself a box, and I had put my wipes in the same box as the food, and then all my trail mix tasted like wipes.
No.
So that's one I don't recommend.
Yeah.
I didn't know till I got on trail, and I was like, oh god. And what are you gonna do? Like, you gotta eat.
Yeah, I guess
so.
my food tastes like Clorox for the next 80 miles.
So nasty.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Mellow, Symbiosis Gear, let us know where people should go to keep up with you, your business, and anything else that they should know.
Sure, yeah. So Symbiosis Gear on Instagram, and you can email me, Sarah at symbiosisgear.com. So the website is symbiosisgear.com. And I'll put a survey, which there'll be obvious links on the Instagram and the website. So,
Sweet.
love to hear from everybody.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here in Backpacker Radio.
Thanks so much for having me. This has been awesome.
To the Trek propaganda portion of today's show. Got a couple of news items and then another piece we'll go through quickly. But this first one, not a happy piece. This is by Katie Jackson. Missing hiker found dead on Mount Whitney. Many have closely followed the search and rescue mission for Taylor Rodriguez, a 29-year-old hiker from San Antonio, Texas, who went missing on Mount Whitney in late December. Sadly, the search ended in tragedy when his body was discovered on January 4th near Upper Boy Scout Lake at an elevation around 12,000 feet. Reports from authorities suggest that Rodriguez may have been ill-prepared for the conditions, lacking the necessary gear and experience to navigate the challenges of a winter ascent. Obviously, we don't share this news ever to shame the deceased, but I do think we have a responsibility because we cover so many highlight treks that I think are probably pretty high risk, that it's important to also point out what can go wrong on these excursions, especially in scenarios where people lack the proper gear or skills and experience for something like this. So, very sad story out of Mount Whitney, but important to hear the cautionary tales as well. Jump right into another news piece. Also not good news, but much less not good. And that's that REI announces mass layoffs and an end to the beloved program. I think we're missing a word from...
It's their outdoor exploration program.
I don't know if a word got deleted from the title, but...
It's from this. On Facebook, the article has the full word.
Okay. REI Co-op has announced the closure of its Experiences division, which has offered adventure travel, day tours, and classes since 1987. This decision will result in 428 layoffs, including 180 full-time staff and 248 part-time guides. CEO Eric Artz stated that the division, serving less than 0.4 of REI's customer base in 2024, has been unprofitable, leading to the company redirecting resources towards its core activities like camping, backpacking, running, hiking, and outdoor life. Despite the closure, REI remains committed to outdoor education, blah, 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 blah. I think that's the headline event. So, sad thing. I actually have done an REI course before, and I thought it was very well done. Bummer to see this happening, but, I think it's also tough when something's not profitable to keep it running.
Yeah, the Facebook groups are going off about this.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how still relevant it'll be by the time, but...
Is the feeling that people are pissed that they're laying that many people off? Because...
I think the general vibe that I've been seeing is that the Experiences program was never meant to be profitable. It was something to kind of encourage people to get outside and teach those skills, but not in a way that they expected profits from it. So to just now say that it's not profitable is it was never really that way either. And I think what some people have beef with is the salaries of the C-suite execs.
Yeah.
And how much they're making and not being willing to continue something like this. I don't know. I'm not super in touch with REI itself, being that I'm not someone that works there or frequently shops there too much, or has done the excursions. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but that's just what I'm seeing in the Facebook groups.
I think that's oftentimes the standard reaction to this sort of news. That said, I do also understand it. And I don't think the demand for these sorts of things is going anywhere. This will always be of interest. You can only learn so much online, though you can learn a lot. So I think this presents an awesome opportunity for some local guiding companies. And we've had guides on the podcast in the past, Skirka, Carly Moray. So, although REI might not be providing it, and I'm sure that was a nice streamlined way for people to get it, there will still be opportunities for folks to learn these things.
Yeah, I had seen when I was getting on my flight, when you're in that weird limbo between when your phone works and doesn't work, and it'll still load stuff, but it won't do stuff. I had seen on something in a group in Facebook where someone was saying that they wanted to go on an all-women expedition, and now they weren't going to do it because REI wasn't running it anymore, and they were reaching out for suggestions for other places that they could look into. And I was so mad that my phone wouldn't comment because I was like, Skirka just talked about how he was doing those.
Yeah.
So, there's ways to still find them. And if anything, you're supporting a smaller business when you're doing it because REI is no longer that small business.
Yeah. I think this creates a lot of opportunity for other regions. So
definitely.
I think these problems will be solved. But obviously, our hearts go out to anyone who was laid off. That is not a good time. last but not least is the best backpacking tents for through hiking in 2025. This one is by our editors. It's generally corralled by Kelly, but we always obviously pull our gear writers for this one. From one year to the next, these don't change that much, and it's kind of category dependent on how much it changes and how many innovations there were. Like for something like footwear, it actually changes a lot because, as we discussed in previous episodes, there's so much turnover and the new features that are being added and a lot more competition. Topo Athletic, obviously, title sponsor of the podcast. For tents, there's less turnover. There just hasn't been a ton of innovation. But obviously calling out Durston has been the big news in the tent world over the last couple of years. But yeah, if you want to learn what our gear writers thought was the cream of the crop, head to the link in the show notes. Question of the day. This is 100% a you question.
No, I said it was a you one. I read this to Garrett last night and I said, LOL, this is so Zach.
Based on the subject, I would think that to be true, but I don't remember coming up with this one. We'll have to maybe.
I certainly don't think it was me. When would I have thought of this?
Like 2 a.m. This is a 2 a.m. Chaunce question.
No, this is one that you had to have thought of
Here.
while like staring at your poo proudly before flushing.
At what point? We'll have to ask Rachel on this one. She'll have the answer.
No, copy it and paste it into the chat surge.
I did.
Did it not?
And maybe
do it?
I didn't get it because I
you
lost my text.
Thought of it and entered it and didn't text it.
We're going to get to this. But
Yeah, and we're just building suspense right now.
Ooh, this would have been an awesome opportunity to use our new wheel, but I haven't actually done.
Oh,
anything
and
to
put
it.
all the points that it
Yeah,
could?
Yeah.
Okay, good brainstorming for next
Yeah.
time.
I was thinking a shotgun, other embarrassing and punishing things for when we have these.
Here we go. 11/5/2024. Zach Davis. At what point does it actually start smelling like shit? Here we go. I think this perhaps reworked version of the question. And at what point? Oh, you know what? Submitted question of the day, courtesy of Paulie. This is Paulie's.
All right. Okay.
He
so
said,
it came from my phone, but it was not my
yes.
idea.
So
There we
Paulie's
go.
original question was, if poop stinks outside of your body, does it stink inside of your body?
Yep.
If so, which do you think smells worse? And you said, I think perhaps a reworked version of the question, at what point does it actually start smelling like shit?
Yeah.
And
All
then
right.
you said, certainly before it leaves your bung, but where exactly
Well,
does
let's not
it
give
get
away. Let's not
that
give it away.
distinct brand?
Yeah. Let's give. So
And then, wait, no, I want to keep reading this chat then. And then I said, I feel like we need a guest who eats ass for when we do that one.
we'll
And
have to
then
ask Sarah.
You said, Rachel, can you include that one on the initial guest outreach?
This is a good plug for. I hope you applied to be our production assistant because you'll be privy to these sorts of very appropriate work exchanges.
Yeah. Jabba is our HR.
Yeah.
So that's that question. And I
Yes.
read it to Garrett last night. And
Yeah.
like, I'm super like tired from flying and travel all day. Garrett's been on like a 5-day house cleaning streak because no one's been home to tell him otherwise, which is great. I came home to the cleanest house. But I read him this and he just stopped. He goes, that is a really, really good question.
I guess shout out Polly then.
Yeah. Thanks, Polly.
Polly, genius question. Yeah. What do you think?
I think it depends, not as much on the poop as on the conditions. Because if you're pooping into a bowl of water, I feel like the water can mask the smell of shit while it's in the bowl to an extent sometimes.
Yeah, but
versus
poop still smells.
if you're pooping in the hole, like in the cat hole, it doesn't have anything to help hide the smell.
I'm interpreting the question as like, at what point from you putting the food in your mouth to it leaving your body and smelling like shit does it start to smell like shit?
I would say in the intestines, if that's the question.
Yeah.
Because your farts smell like shit, and those come from inside of you.
Certainly mine do. Yeah. So
But you have poops that don't smell too, right?
rarely, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. Jenna, 100% of her farts don't smell.
I don't think my poop smells.
Yeah, probably not. Probably smells awesome. I'm going to go with, food, mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, bunghole is the technical term.
I would say when it crosses from the small intestine to the large intestine, they give it a spritz of poo smell.
I had the exact same thought but earlier. I think, like in the small intestine, like maybe right after the stomach.
Like a little dessert.
Is where they're like, the guys that are like marketing things for like, you go to the cells and create energy. We don't need you. We're spraying you with poop smells. So
so everyone knows we don't want you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Also, I did not look this one up at all.
I do think it depends on if you're a boy or girl. I hate to bring it there, but Garrett's poops smell so much that he has to poop on a different floor from the floor that I'm on.
Yeah.
Like,
what
it
is
is
it about
offensive.
guys' shits?
And mine are cute and don't smell at all.
I'm sure they.
I promise you.
They
I
don't.
promise you.
Yeah. I don't. Yep.
How about when we have the Airbnbs at like trail days and stuff?
Well,
you
don't
clear
poop.
out the room. Yes, maybe I do. That's exactly the answer that you would give to someone whose poops don't smell.
I'm pretty sure on every trip we've ever gone to, you've been like, I think I pooped in March.
Well, yeah.
Summer.
I poop like once every several days.
Yeah.
I'm always backed up.
Yeah.
But when it happens, they're so solidified
Okay.
and like logged up that
Next
there's no
time-
scent escaping.
Next time you take a dump, I will come do the test. You got to leave them floating.
No phones. No phones.
Yeah. All right.
I pooped right before this. I wish I didn't.
They definitely
That
stink.
one didn't smell.
If Garrett tells you that they don't stink, that's just
No.
because he's being a good fiance.
He brought up a good thought, which was consistency as well. Because if you have like a wet, sloppy one, that's going to smell.
Sure.
But if you are like me and you stay backed up for 5 days and then you let one little, deer pellet out and then you keep going,
Yeah.
it's so condensed and
Yeah.
packed up.
I-
It's like having a candle in an Amazon box with a lot of padding.
I will sign off on guys' poops are stinkier, but I can say with 100% certainty that women also release some stink bombs. I'm not throwing anyone
you can
under
let
any
us
bus.
know next time I time it right.
Okay.
You'll let us know.
Yeah, maybe you're the outlier here, but I forgot where I was going with this. Yeah, I just remember an early memory, and I wonder if Leo already has this of me, is just like going into my parents' bathroom, and my dad left a brand that was distinct. It was really bad, but also distinct. Like you knew dad took a dump. It was a dad dump, and there was no two ways about it. It was specifically a dad dump. It's a thing. There should be a dad dump candle. It's so distinct.
Ew.
I think everyone listening to this that has a dad, which is probably most people, you've never experienced dad dump?
The farmhouse we have upstate in New York has one bathroom. So
yes.
Our family vacations were going there for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it was impossible to not have to sit in someone else's smell for a bit.
But did your dad have a distinct brand? Like, could
I
you know?
I couldn't like think of it if I tried.
Okay. Yeah, no, this is definitely a thing that has stuck
That's a
with me
core
for a long
memory of
time.
yours that
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
relate to.
But like I said, I did not actually look this one up. So somebody smart, let us know. Podcast at thetrek.co. What's the right answer here? According to Chaunce, it never smells like shit. Shit never smells like shit.
No, that's not what I said at all. I said it depends on a lot of factors, like where the poop is going and what consistency it is. And
Yeah.
if you're a boy or a girl, there's a lot of things that go into when your poop will smell. And
Okay.
sometimes the answer is it just won't. But I think the ones that just won't are the same ones that will if they've been sitting in a cat hole for like 3 days.
What do you presume you have to eat to cook up a stinkless shit?
Probably like healthy food can make you smell too. I don't know. If I think of that, like that's a money making
Yeah.
idea right there.
This
I'm gonna have to charge you for
stinkless
that
shit
one.
diet. I mean, we're
Yeah.
running out of diets to pump through the internet and get rich
Yeah.
on. That could be our next book.
The early stages of a relationship diet,
Yeah.
where you don't have to fear about
Just
slipping out a quiet fart.
Only cruciferous, the category of vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower.
What are
that
they
high-
called?
Cruciferous, I think.
I don't know if I've ever heard that word.
Crucifer. How do you pronounce that?
We are scholars.
Cruciferous.
Cruciferous. There we go.
Oh,
Thank you, internet voice. Yeah, maybe that's the key.
maybe.
Cruciferous. All right. Triple Crown. I think this is a Rachel one, correct?
Maybe.
It's not me.
Sounds like it could be me. But it could be Rachel. I don't want to steal her thunder.
Okay, this is the Triple Crown of middle-aged happiness. Before we get into this, what age bracket are you?
I am. How do you know age brackets? I am 32.
Yeah, how would you, so if we're doing middle-aged happiness, would you describe yourself as someone who's middle-aged?
Depends on what my end age ends up being.
Sure.
But I would say right now, I would like to think that I'm almost there, but not yet.
Okay.
I think it's also a state of mind. Like, I think when you're not married yet and you don't have kids yet, it's hard to put yourself in middle-aged.
Sure.
And I want to be young forever.
Yeah. No. I think technically I would consider myself a little young by age standards, but psychologically full-blown there. Like, I feel, when people ask how old I am, I say I'm 40. I'm not 40, but I'm so close to that realm of life. I just have adopted it. So yeah, triple crown of middle-aged happiness.
Okay.
So I guess, are you projecting, or are you just going to round up and say that these are the things that...
This is a me one, and this is from January 2024 that I proposed it with a screenshot of a tweet that said, middle-aged happiness is discovering that the next load of laundry to fold is just 8 bath towels and not 46 small pieces of small human clothes.
That's a good example. And it also makes me feel good about the ones I prepared, because mine are very much in that vein.
Yeah. So I'm going to call myself like close enough to middle-aged where I can still feel those feelings, but maybe I don't feel them as hard.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure I'll feel them much harder in 10 years.
Sure. You want to go?
Sure. My first one is clean sheets.
Okay.
Nothing feels nicer than getting into a bed with clean sheets.
Is day 2 still clean sheets, or does it has to be like...
I'm talking like first peel back of the blanket clean
All right.
sheets. Like fresh, clean, not touched yet,
Yeah.
pristine sheets is an incredible get into bed feeling.
Yeah. This is going to become a dichotomy of kids and not kids, because I think what you're saying is valid, but most of my things are now tainted by the fact that I've got little guys at home.
Do you not still get into clean sheets when you wash your
Less
bed?
often, because... Do I have any laundry specific ones? No. Because we run at minimum 2 loads of laundry per day, which doesn't include our bedding. Like, that's how... It's tough to find the time where...
So you just don't wash your sheets anymore?
Well, Jenna has always... I don't think I've ever washed a sheet in my life.
We had the same person then, because Garrett does it.
Okay. As long as you have a dedicated person.
Mm-hmm.
So sheets do get cleaned, but far less frequently than they did at one point, because we're already exhausted with laundry chores.
I think that's part of what makes it such a good feeling is, like, I am not great at laundry. I tend to shrink things and don't know what should go in the dryer and what shouldn't. And my memory is really bad. So, like, Garrett will be like, oh, you shouldn't have put that sweater in the wash. Yeah. And I'm like, oh. And then he finds it in the wash again. And so for some things, he's like, I'll just do it, which is really kind. But he likes to wash the sheets because he puts like whatever fabric stuff he puts in them that makes them come out nice. And he also finds it to be faster to make the bed if I don't help. I'm winning all around here. But so for me, part of the nice, wonderful happiness feeling of the clean sheets is sometimes it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Like last night I got home from my work trip and I got in bed and I was like, are these clean sheets?
Yeah, it is a nice feeling. They feel extra crisp. It's like being at a hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like everything is correct. It reminds me, Nate Bargatze, you're familiar, comedian. He had a special recently, and he's talking about like how he's so ignorant with all things laundry that he'll just put in like a suit with a rug. He just doesn't know anything about it. That made me laugh. Okay, my first one is, this is a particular pain point for me, is when the dishwasher is empty.
That's not happy?
That is happy.
Oh, you said it was a pain point.
Well, yeah, because it's never empty.
Yeah.
My daily chore, I mean, I have many of them, but my daily chore is when I come home or come downstairs all crusty-eyed after waking up is cleaning the kitchen, emptying the dishwasher. And it's been many months that I haven't done that every single day that I've been home. So the rare occasions where I open a dishwasher and there's nothing in there is real nice. I honestly would even settle for just a dishwasher that's not full and the dishes are still dirty. That it would be good enough. But like seeing dirty dishes and then a dishwasher full of clean dishes is like, oh fuck, I've got
2 jobs here.
Yeah. And with my ADHD, just too many things going on just overwhelms me very quickly.
Would you rather put the dishes away or load the dishwasher?
definitely load the dishwasher. The fact that
I'm put dishes away.
seriously,
I don't have to get my hands wet.
you get your hands wet loading the. Oh, you mean like rinsing the
Yeah,
plates
to
and
get
stuff?
it, like pre-wash.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I wish. I think Jenna and I are not compatible in that way, in that we would both rather load the dishwasher.
Well, I've got a piggyback for yours, which isn't one of mine, but just like a sub-bullet point of
Sure.
yours that I think is part of the happiness, which also leans towards me being a unload the dishwasher rather than load it person, but when food doesn't stick. Like when you've got a sink full of dishes and you're like running the water on them and the food just slides off of each one. And you're like, wait, I don't have to scrub any of this. I don't need to let this soak.
Yeah.
Wow. What a gift.
I am neurotic about like pans and pots or anything that like cereal that has stuck, that I'll throw it in the sink with dish soap overnight just to avoid having to scrub hard, because ain't no one got time for that.
That's my one qualm with Garrett's washing abilities. Great at laundry, but he doesn't pre-wash the dishes enough, and so there's times where I go to unload the dishwasher and there's still like stuff on it.
Yep.
And I can't put that back in a drawer. There's no way.
Yeah, no.
So some things have to go through several times.
Rewashing it, yeah, that's a bummer for sure.
Yeah.
My next one is, this will be no surprise for me, a full night of sleep. And like now more so than ever. I think even 5 years ago, my ability to rally after a bad night of sleep, even a couple bad nights, maybe a few, was fine. Like I could still function somewhat normally. But like now if I have especially 2 bad nights of sleep in a row, my brain doesn't work. I'm irritable. Like it's just, it adds up on me quickly. So yeah, the feeling of waking up after 8 hours where like you didn't wake up at all overnight, that is better than any cup of coffee. It's the greatest feeling in the world.
I would sacrifice that feeling on occasion for waking up in the middle of the night, but it's like sometime that feels like it's time to wake up and you might have just beat your alarm by a second, but then you look and you've got like 3 more hours and you're like, I could go pee, I could come back, and I get a nap on top of my sleep.
Yeah, no, if I wake up with that fresh feeling, I'm awake for a minimum of 30 minutes.
I never said I felt fresh.
Oh, well.
I just said it was close to when the alarm would go off.
Sure.
But no, I never wake up fresh.
Yeah.
Okay. This one is topical for the moment and something I wish I had, but we had our like 3-day work sales kickoff, on-site thing where they fly everyone to one place and you sit through conferences and trainings for 3 days. And the schedule was essentially 7:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. like stuff. And there was a 2-hour break from 5 to 7 p.m. And what would have made the middle age in me happiest would be if they had placed that break earlier in the day so that I could have used it for a nap.
Yeah.
I think anytime, and this could apply to work stuff, this could apply to if you're traveling or you're on vacation or you're doing anything that's multiple days where you have to just find the energy somewhere, is breaks. You don't have to use them for naps, but they're in a position of time that makes it where if you wanted to use it for a nap, you could.
Yeah.
Because my problem was always by 5 p.m., I was like, if I take a nap now,
not getting back up,
I'm going to not fall asleep well tonight, and that's going to suck, so now I've got to power through.
Yeah.
And then I was just like a half-dazed Red Bull-inducing monster,
Yeah.
So
with that 5 to 7 break, I probably would consume alcohol, and that would 100% backfire.
Right.
It is called happy hour for a reason.
Right. But you're also at work, so you're like, I can't consume alcohol the way I normally would like to.
Yeah. I would assume, given that structure, that's how some people at least were feeling.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was a sales kickoff.
Yeah.
You're taking 1,500 salespeople and you're putting them in a Marriott together.
Yeah.
So that stuff does happen.
That should be a reality TV show.
It should. But I think, again, a break for a nap. If I were to look at the schedule and I were to see that meetings go from 7 a.m. to noon, then noon to 1 is lunch, and 1 to 3 is break, and then 3 to 7 is conference stuff, and then 7 we have dinner, and then we have the night activity.
Yeah.
That's perfect for me. I will be eating fast at noon.
Yeah.
And then sleeping for 2 hours and coming back refreshed and happy.
No.
Middle age happiness is a nap.
Yeah. I'm always drained after coming back after something like that.
And my last one, I've got an honorable mention. Now I'm like, maybe should I have not used that one? Canceled plans without guilt is my last one.
I use that in things that are better than sex, the triple crown
Yeah.
of that. And that is like
It
my
falls
favorite
into
thing.
a lot of things.
It's so nice.
I will put a shout out to Fireball/Mims here because we are so good at this. Where if one of us it doesn't matter how close to the thing, if one of us just doesn't want to do it, we never give the other person shit for it.
Sure.
Like, it doesn't matter the reason. You don't even need to give a reason. Just
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm not feeling this anymore. Can we just not do it?
Yeah.
And it's like sick. There's no part of the friendship where you're like, oh, like I feel bad. Like, I should have done it anyway, even though I didn't want to. That person's gonna be mad at me. Like that pre-dread of canceling a plan when you're like, how is this gonna backfire? None of that ever.
Yeah.
And it's so nice because you feel like if you want to do the thing, you are happy and excited to do it. And if you don't need to dread what the other person will think if you're like, I really want to cancel today's plans.
Yeah. I experience that when this podcast gets canceled. And it's not, I love doing the podcast. I genuinely do, but I'm always like 10% extra stressed the day of a podcast.
Yeah.
Like it's just always lingering on me. And like, especially if I know the day before that it's canceled, a weight has fallen off of me.
Yeah.
Like, and don't take that the wrong way. I very much enjoy doing the podcast, but the lead up to the podcast is the part that I don't love so much.
No, I would lie if I didn't say same. I think less happy, but still happiness is when we get to do early segments.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, I'll be able to get home at like a reasonable hour for dinner.
Yeah. 100% agreed. Like today. My last one, I do have a couple of honorable mentions. I'm actually surprised that you didn't take this one, but the moment you file your taxes.
Yeah, I can't put that one because I feel like until it gets that check approved, everything's good, then the moment of happiness doesn't come. And by
getting the return or the...
I don't get a return.
Well, whatever it might be.
It's just how much do I pay?
Yeah.
But no, I think the problem with that is it's a reoccurring task where by the time you would feel that happiness, you're already in the next cycle.
You're doing your taxes late then because...
No, you close out taxes in April. Like that's when it's done.
Yeah.
But then you're
Unless
already...
you get an extension,
but you're already in Q2 of the following year. So you're still logging all your expenses. You've probably already paid quarterly for something.
But
you're it's never done. There's never that, this task is done.
There's still accounting needs, but for me, at least, from like a small business perspective, the process of pulling together all of the requirements for filing taxes is like a multi-day process.
Yeah.
And the only thing worse than actually doing all that stuff is the anticipation of doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
I hate it, and I think about it for a month before I even like start to get to it. And the moment that I file, even if I owe money at the end of it, I don't care. I would honestly pay a lot of money to just be like, just tell me what I owe you. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this at all. I would pay extra money to just be like, please leave me alone. This sucks. So once it's done, that's a huge, like I'll drink after that for sure.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
My honorable mention is things that are soft/comfortable. Big fan of furry coats, not real fur. Don't come at me, PETA, but furry things, Sherpa things, cashmere, just soft things.
Yeah.
I want to be soft at all times and warm and comfortable.
Yeah.
I want to feel hugged by a soft thing at all times.
Yeah. What's the ethical take? I know not from PETA's standpoint, obviously, but just the community at large on wearing the fur of an animal that you've hunted for its meat. I feel like that is more ethical.
I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
I don't know what like the general consensus of the world is. I'm sure if it's
on
not great, I'm sure we'll get emails.
Yeah.
podcast@thetrek.co. I would say if you hunt the animal, and I've thought this because remember when my dad sent me that photo of the buck he killed?
Yeah.
I thought that in terms of like, man, if I knew how to tan a hide, that'd be a cool rug.
Yeah.
You know, because it's already dead. And
if you're not using
you're
the
using
hide,
more of it.
that's wasteful. And then you're
Right.
using something synthetic or with plastics. Like, yeah, it just seems like it makes a lot more sense.
I would say the bad part is killing the animal to make the coat.
Agreed.
But if you're hunting to hunt because you want to eat the meat, and then the coat is just there, use it.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard to not cross that line. I think that's where the 1600s started to go wrong.
Yeah. If you're killing like 1,000 minks to make a jacket and not eating anything.
The white-tailed deer almost went extinct because it was overhunted so much.
And look where we are today. They're basically a parasite. My honorable mentions are kids nap time. is
Ooh.
especially when they're ornery. We're actually going through a good stretch right now. Kids have been awesome and sweet, but we're also about to get sick because it's that time of the year. So like nap time is like the way that you're describing you getting a nap is how I feel when they are asleep.
Yeah.
It's just the weekends are nice when you just get an hour and a half break to like clean or just sit.
Yeah.
Sitting is so nice
Sitting
on
is
the
so
weekend.
nice.
Yeah.
Another one I've got is when you know you should be getting acid reflux, but it doesn't come. Like I've drank,
never experienced
I've
that.
had a glass of Cab Sauv. I've ate a red sauce pasta. I know that I should get acid reflux and have a really bad feeling in my stomach right now. I've got the Tums on hand, and for some reason it doesn't come. Wow, thank you, universe, for that gift.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate that's not something I struggle with. I've had it a couple of times, and yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah. I was sitting with a couple of Gen Z girls at one of the conference meetings, and it was like 3 p.m. And I was like, it's that time of day, ladies. And I pulled out my like thing of chewy Tums, and they thought it was gum. So they went like that, and they saw what it was. They were like, we don't need that.
That's a middle-age happiness for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. All right, I think that's probably pretty good.
Oh, I had one more, which is obvious, which is when you wake up the next morning and you think that there's a chance you'll be hungover and you're not.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
They happen rarely for me now, but yeah.
Yeah, you lay in bed and you just like, you have that moment before you move of like, could it be?
Yeah.
Am I not? Really?
For me, it's always the opposite. It's like, I've had 2 drinks, I'll be fine. And then like, I wake up for an hour in the middle of the night because I'm hot. And then I feel like shit the next day off of 2 drinks.
I get late hangovers. So I wake up and I think, okay, this is it. I didn't get one.
Still a little drunk. It's kind of numbing.
Not even. Like, yes, sometimes still a little drunk, but
Yeah.
not always. And then around 2, 3 p.m., I just start to deteriorate.
Yeah,
And by
yeah.
8 p.m., I would say if there's ever been a time I've thrown up from being hungover, 999.9 whatever % out of the 10, it is at 8 p.m. the following day.
Mm-hmm.
It's not ever the morning.
Yeah. Cool. Let us know your triple crown of middle-aged happiness at podcast@thetrek.co or social media. Okay. Mailbag. You want to take the mailbag?
Yes.
I like this is becoming a thing.
It is.
Or has become a thing.
And I'm surprised that this is from Dennis, because usually the people that are not on board with this are the girls.
Yeah.
It's the guys that can't do this.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's something to do with how you're composed.
We're composed.
But
It's in the process of making stinky shits. There's our tubes are closer together.
yeah, Dennis says, I can poop without having to pee 2 separate trips to the bathroom. Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah. I wish I would pay more attention to my poops because I feel like it's 100%, but I also just might not be paying attention. It's definitely almost every time, if not every time. But I think the thing that has been contested, and we should run back the tape, is I don't do this simultaneously. I'm not pooping and peeing at the exact same time.
That's chaos.
Yeah.
I
I thought that was what the internet was interpreting from that is no.
It's the same flush.
I'm now wondering what is the order. I think it's poo then pee.
No. I guess it depends on how bad you gotta go.
I'm gonna have to do the research. I feel like that's
I'm
right.
gonna have to do the research.
I feel like that's right, but now I'm gonna go to the bathroom and then pee and then poo and be like, oh shit, misrepresented it.
This morning I peed before my meeting, and then I finished the meeting, went to get stuff ready to come here, and thought this could be time.
Yeah.
And then I went and pooped, and they were just 2 separate transactions.
And no pee came out.
No, because I had peed 30 minutes prior.
Yeah.
45
Yeah,
minutes prior.
for me it's like when you are around running water, you have to pee. Like it's something that spurs the action.
You know what? I'll save you the research. I've thought of it. I think that if it is same transaction, the pee comes before the poo. Because have you ever let the dog out? And the dog
Is that
will,
a metaphor?
No,
Okay.
Harper will always
Oh.
pee first, and then she'll do a little searching for where she wants to poop, and then she'll poop. Same outing, but she always pees first.
Yeah. I don't think
What does Sierra
Sierra's
do?
the same way.
Does she poop first?
I think she will oftentimes separate them.
What, like she won't do both in one go?
I throw the ball for her every morning. I'm trying to think. I think this morning she only pooped. I don't think she peed. She might have peed.
She
before.
had to have peed.
Well, I mean, we let her out first thing in the morning every morning. I don't know what she does because I'm going straight to the coffee machine. But yeah, I think it's different because, like, for me, they're coming out within 20 to 30 seconds of each other.
Yeah, no, okay. We do have to research.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Dennis.
Thanks, Dennis.
5-star review. This is from Shovel Racer. Love the candor. Great balance of humor stories and gear talk. I'm quite a bit older, so the guests are often in a different phase of life, but I enjoy staying plugged into the community through the show. Well, Shovel Racer, we appreciate you being plugged in as well. If you guys want to have your review read on this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us any number of stars.
Just not 1, 2, 3, or 4. I'm laughing at Rachel's red note under the next part, the very top.
Let's see, how many do we have?
3, from what I just counted. She put them all next to each other.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, yep, got to do sponsor mention. Thank you to Topo Athletic. As we mentioned in a previous podcast, they are now the most represented brand amongst AT thru-hikers. The Lone Peak was still the top used model, but Topo had 4 models in the top 8.
Wow.
They were half of the represented models. So kudos to them. Yes, that is the Terra Venture. Chaunce is showing on screen there. That is what I have been rocking of late.
How do you like them compared to the Pursuits?
Truthfully, I haven't started testing them until the winter, so there hasn't been much trail time, and by much I mean really any, too snowy and cold. Excited to test them out, but that was the top model referenced in the AT hiker survey. But knowing that, I've really enjoyed the Pursuits. And
do you know what's different about them?
I believe
they look like maybe a little more padding on the back.
I don't want to speak out of turn. We'll have that answer for you here shortly. But I know that both of the models use the Vibram Mega Grip, Ultra Grip.
Yeah, you see the yellow on the foot. That's when you know.
Yeah, but the tread on these things is exceptionally grippy. And
that's the Mega Grip. There's a sticker that says it.
Mega Grip. And yeah, when you're on wet rocks and roots, this works better than anything else out there. It's fucking great. So yeah, taking on a long-distance backpacking trek in 2025, we encourage you to check out Topo Athletic. Use our code TREKWINTER15 for 15% off your order at topoathletic.com. Thank you to our Chuck Norris Award winners on Patreon. Also, I should mention Rachel's note. We are a podcast for Greg specifically. We have a lot of Greg supporters, so thank you to the Gregs. Yeah, to the Gregs. Alex and Misty with Navigators Crafting, Alex Kindle, Andrew, Austin McDaniel, Brad and Blair from 13 Adventures, Brent Stenberg, Brian Alsop,
Fables,
Christopher Marshburn, Coach from Marine Outdoors, Derek Cook, Eric Casper,
Friendly Ghost,
Eric Hoffman, Jillian Daniels, Greg Knight, Greg Martin. That's why we have 3 now. I have a new one. Greg Martin. You're too young to get the reference.
Can you explain it to me?
It's the show Martin. It was a 90s sitcom with Martin Lawrence.
Okay.
I think I played it on a recent episode.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a recent search of this. Greg.
Can we get Polly to clip that and you keep that in the shame folder, and then when you read that part, you just press that play button?
I'm glad you brought up the shame folder because this is a new laptop, and it turns out I lost all of the
yes!
clips.
Oh, happy day!
So I had to go through and re-download all of them.
Oh, come on!
Give me everything you want! What do you want me to want? Give me
I
everything
tried to
you
go
want!
like more in the front of the mouth than in the throat. The throat is where I always get stuck. Oh my god, are we gonna go get our assholes waxed together? Big old gap tooth bitch. So I'm gonna gaslight my whole team. How's your hole look? Is that a clean? Do you have a clean hole? I am a cornbread hoe. I am. It doesn't affect me.
I think I found some ones that Polly had sent me that I forgot to add. So we have not only do we have them, we have more than ever.
No. I am a piece of trash. I am. Like, couldn't you just put it in your poop hole? Got a Skirka's pube on my tongue. The underwear? I'll save my touches for the end. And you didn't do it until I came in with a fat bag of burgers.
Chaunce, you old bag.
That's a classic.
And it's just like, it's like a fun experience in your mouth.
Yeah, I got a little chewini.
And I'm only 5'5", but I need it wide and I need it long.
That's not me.
I would have no issue stroking the butthole with that.
I
I have a very strong sphincter. All right. So yeah, we've got him back.
So Greg Martin,
Yeah, Greg
welcome.
Greg McDaniel,
May he bring honor to his name.
Griffin. Hey, would you bring me a beer? Haley Buckingham,
Dallas.
Liz Seeger, Mud Tom, Patrick Ciancialo, Rebecca Brave, Sawyer Products, Spam, Timothy Hahn,
Solo.
and Tracy Trigger. Thank you to Polly, our guy, and Old Man Murph's Coffee, his coffee roaster. Go to ommcr.com and get yourself a delicious bag of beans. You can follow us on social at Backpacker Radio on, I think by the time this one comes out, the Supreme Court will have ruled on whether we can get rid of TikTok.
Are we putting a bet on this? Because you're always TikTok's going away, and I just don't see that happening.
I don't feel confident enough to bet against it, but I think it would be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it'd probably be great for a majority of people, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah. We could do a wheel spin on that.
Will it happen versus won't it happen?
I'll take the other side of it.
The won't it happen?
Yeah.
Well, when is the cutoff? Because it could happen for 3 days and then come back.
Let's say by the end of March. And I also want the side of the bet that it gets divested, because I think that there's a good chance that it'll just change ownership.
I think there's a good chance that Trump will take office and be like, LOL, let's forget that one.
Okay, so I'll take the side of either it gets shut down or it has to have a new ownership.
No, because Kevin O'Leary wants to buy it. I saw that on Instagram the other day.
I'm sure a lot of people want to buy it.
So I could see that too. I just don't think it's going away. I don't think I'm going to go click the app and it's going to be error opening page.
We'll find a bet here in a future moment. You can follow us on Backpacker Radio at Instagram and TikTok at Backpacker Pod, on X, Facebook.com/Backpacker Radio. You can follow Chaunce.
You can find me on Instagram at Juliana_Chauncey. You can watch my hiking videos on YouTube at Juliana Chauncey. And you can get my book, Hiking from Home, a long-distance hiking guide for family and friends, on Amazon if you have anyone that's worrying about you taking on a hike this year.
That reminds me, can I steal one of your books? I'm doing a coaching call, and I recommended your book to
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're so sweet. Yeah, I take it.
Appalachian Trials and Pacific Crest Trials are my books, and we would both be very grateful for a review on Amazon.
Yes, we would.
Subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on YouTube.
Hi, Internet.
What's up, YouTube? And that is it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening, and happy hiking.
Bye.